Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. I love being able to say from the Citizens Bank Studio. I'm so thrilled that Citizens Bank is a sponsor of the studio for the Ricky Matthews Show, and love saying that every day. So thank you, Citizens Bank, for recognizing the importance of recognizing people who are doing so much in the trenches to make Mississippi such a great place to live, work, and play. Listen, we've had, I do this from time to time, but looking back, we've had a string of just terrific shows. And I really want to encourage you, if you haven't gone to Facebook and liked the Ricky Matthews Show Facebook page, or the SuperTalk Gulf Coast Facebook page, or the SuperTalk Mississippi Facebook page, or you can also get access to all these shows, whether it's this show or my Monday shows, the SuperTalk Outdoors. You can go to the SuperTalk Mississippi YouTube page and have access to those. But you can also go look them up at your favorite podcast platform. But looking back on the last several days, I had a great discussion with John Ferrucci, who's the general manager of Silver Slipper, and John's going to be retiring in April. And we looked back on his around 20 years of being a leader here in coastal Mississippi, working for 6 or 7 different casinos. And, John and I had worked together in the community for a long, long time. But the opportunity to reconnect with John through this show has been awesome. And it's just kind of a telling discussion of what a good general manager does in a casino, and how dedicated he is to his employees, how dedicated he is to the community, and how important he's been as a leader in Hancock County and the Mississippi Gulf Coast. But if you missed that conversation, I'd really encourage you to go listen. I periodically get together with my friend Ashley Edwards. Ashley's a very smart guy. He's the former CEO of the Gulf Coast Business Council. He's an entrepreneur. He contributes to SuperTalk Mississippi in a number of different ways. But again, he's a smart guy, a former journalist, and he and I talked about social media, this recent letter from Mark Zuckerberg talking about Facebook and how he regrets sort of giving in to the federal government as they try to suppress information. And it's a very telling time. And I actually, during the show, I said I did a quick look at what is trending on X. This is during the show I did this. And wow, I call it the tip of the spear. That letter is kind of the tip of the spear. I think demonstrating to all of us why we should be concerned about suppression of free speech, and why we should be more interested in what Elon Musk is doing at X. Really, really good stuff. Also had a conversation with Delbert Hoseman. We talked about Hurricane Katrina, the anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, and kind of looking back on that. We talked a little bit about what he's doing in the off season, in the political season. I guess when you're the lieutenant governor, you really never have a true off season. There's probably during the legislative session, and then when the legislative session is not happening. But clearly, if you follow him on X or Facebook, or just pay attention to what he's doing, you see that he's a busy guy traveling the state. And we spent a whole hour together talking about all that. So it's really, really good stuff. Again, long list of great guests. But I'm honored to be here to share their stories and to kind of bring you up to date on some more compelling issues that are facing not just the Mississippi Gulf Coast, but also the state of Mississippi and our nation, for that matter, in a non-political way for the most part. Listen, if I look back on my time in this seat over the past more than 4 years, the one person that I miss checking in with on a regular basis is my friend Craig Ray, who's the former director of Visit Mississippi. He retired, and it's been a little bit over a year now, actually. And when I saw him pop up, because he's still active in a number of ways, and we'll get into that in a minute. When I saw that he popped up, I'm like, yes, I get to catch up with my good buddy who's made so many awesome contributions to Mississippi over a bunch of years. And so without any further ado, let me welcome my friend Craig Ray back to the show. Craig, how you doing?
Ricky, doing well. Thanks for having me on your show. Always great to reminisce and talk about what we've done or what we're still planning to do, and reaching out to all my friends on the Gulf Coast through you. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about. I actually want to chat about Hurricane Katrina and the aftermath of Katrina. You got to see so much in the aftermath, how the state came together. You actually have worked for presidents along the way. So you traveled with presidents. You have lots of stories to tell. We've actually done entire shows talking about some of the compelling stories that you've been part of. But I really want to zero in on a specific element about traveling with the president, because I have had the opportunity to be around the elder George Bush. I've been around the George W. Bush a number of times in the wake of Hurricane Katrina. I had the opportunity to help with the White House press corps when President Reagan came here. I have been involved in the press corps and the Secret Service and advance team related to President George W. Bush when he was vice president, came to Coastal Mississippi. So the reason for mentioning all of this is I've been around Secret Service and the preparations that were necessary, et cetera. I'm still blown away that Trump was nearly assassinated. I can't even imagine. I want to talk to you about that. And then I want to get up to date on, man, what you've been involved with, because even though you're retired, you're still heavily involved with Marty Stuart and his efforts. What he's doing is so important to country music, and we'll reflect on that a bit. And then the Blues Trail, the largest outdoor museum in America that as you refer to it, the Blues Trail, and you've been heavily involved in that. You're going to be doing some travel across the pond soon related to that. So there's a lot going on. But let me first say, just before we get into any of that, how are you doing? How's the retired life? How's your daughter doing? Tell me what's the latest with you.
Well, I've learned to not use the word retire, because I actually need about a year and a half or so to officially have state retirement. I did resign and leave the state of Mississippi from tourism because of my daughter is a senior in high school this year, and I'd promised her I'm a single father, and so I promised her I would be around more in the senior year, and then as she was looking for her college of choice, which we did, and caught up in a lot of travel this past year. Just it's been an incredible, fun year. She's having a great year as a senior at Jackson Academy. She chose Mississippi State, signed up 2 weeks ago on the State at 8 o'clock, I think it was called, where everybody tries to sign up at the same time as a freshman. And so she's just living the dream, having just an exciting year, and it's been fun for me. So really, most of my time is helping her and already making plans ahead there. And I've really taken on the biggest project I've had in the last year and a half is my house. I have a 70-year-old home in Fondren that over time, when I was so busy with the state and traveling so much, when you own a 70-year-old home, the list of honeydews, the stack just grows and grows. So I've been able to just about complete every project here at the house. It was a major upgrade, which I needed to do. So that's all been fun. And so that's occupied most of our time. The blessing of this past year, I might have talked about this before, but asking me the question. I was, for about 20 years, I was 2 states short of having traveled all 50. And so, my 2 that I missed were North Dakota and Montana. And so, but they're just not easy places to get to unless you plan a trip to Montana and North Dakota. Well, through all my travels, my daughter has traveled with me a lot of my trips. So she was at number 20 already at the age of, 14 years old, 20 states for her. So we planned a trip last year after her school year, we went to Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, and Idaho, all on like a 10-day trip. And so we hit North Dakota ended up being the 50th state. So we planned the whole trip around that, pictures at the Welcome Center and signs, and joined the 50 state club, and she hit 25. So it was fun to do together. And that was a long time planning. And I finally just had some breathing room to just do stuff like that. And it was just a blessing to travel in that part of the country. We rented a car and drove about 1,900 miles and went fly fishing and hiking and biking and trail walking and horseback riding. And it was just the trip of a lifetime. And then this past year we went with her school to Italy for 2 weeks, and that was another thing on our bucket list to do. I wanted to go to be with her on her first international trip, and that was just Italy. It was so special. We were already trying to plan a way to go back, but it was fun. So that was my quick elevator speech of what I've been up to, and it's been fun, and then some other things that we'll talk about that I'm physically more involved in projects with the state.
Hey, listen, all so good. It's great to hear. I can see for people who are watching on SuperTalk TV, YouTube, or Facebook, you can see he's seemed like a very happy guy. He won't stay retired, though. He'll be doing some other stuff. I am positive about
You got that right.
He's got too much going on. People said that to me, too, and look where I'm sitting today. Hey, listen, when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Craig Ray, the former director of Visit Mississippi. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. I have my friend Craig Ray with us. Craig and I haven't talked in about a year and a few months. He's the former director of Visit Mississippi, and we're catching up. Even though he is, I guess, semi-retired, I guess is the way you would talk about it, he's still heavily involved working with Marty Stuart on his Congress of Country Music. And they had some great news that popped up last week. We'll talk about that here in just a second. And he's involved in the Blues Trail and doing other things as well. But we're just chatting. Hey, listen, before we get too far, you were mentioning that you had those 2 states you had to get behind you in order to be able to say you've been to every state in the United States. And one was North Dakota and the other was Montana. And we love, my wife Ann and I love that part of the country. We've been up, of course, in northeast Montana. Whitefish is an amazing spot, and we love going there. We love Yellowstone. We've been enjoying, taking our kids to Yellowstone and to Grand Tetons. We actually just recently just got back from a trip out there, and it was awesome. We took the entire family, all the grandkids, and my son and his girlfriend from New York joined us. But we rented a house in Island Park, Idaho, which is about 20 minutes from West Yellowstone. We've done it from different perspective. We've gone into Bozeman and stayed on the Gallatin River. We've gone down in Jackson and enjoyed that part of from that perspective, coming into Grand Tetons and then back into Yellowstone. But this time we stayed in Idaho, and it was awesome, man. So we spent time in Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming while we were there. And it was just an awesome trip. Man, it was 33 degrees one morning there. And then in the afternoons, I think one afternoon it got like in the 70s, but the rest of the time we were there, it was in the 60s. And then the week after we were there, they started having record heat. So we literally hit it at exactly the right time. But, we did the same thing. We fly fished, and, the kids, went whitewater rafting, and we did horseback riding, and we just did it all. We and the house that we rented was a ranch, actually, had about 200 acres. Woke up the first morning we were there, and this entire herd of elk were in the front yard. And then later that morning, two moose came into one of the fields adjacent to the house. And then had its own a pond, and we could fly fish there. God, it was just awesome, man. But it's a great part of the country. Did you enjoy it, having not been there before?
Every second. It was great to be with my daughter, first and foremost, in that environment, and just the freedom that you have to enjoy every bit of it. You got to keep your head on straight for safety reasons when you're out hiking the trails and things like that. But we just loved it. We had great weather. We stayed in Big Sky, Montana, for starters. Then from there we worked our way over to hit North Dakota, then went to South Dakota, did all the things you do in South Dakota there in Mount Rushmore, and then we worked our way back to Wyoming and did Yellowstone Park, and then we ended up in downtown Bozeman for a couple of days to shop and just take in the local history there. So did a big work around, and we hit Idaho while we were in Yellowstone. So technically we had 5 states there that we worked with, and it was a blast. We talk about it every day, that and our Italy trip, and just trying to figure out a way to go back. We were probably might make it back for Christmas to Montana this year. We're not sure. Maybe Thanksgiving, but we're scheming right now.
It'll be fun. I said North Dakota, I meant South Dakota, but
Yeah.
it's great to see you enjoying yourself. And that's really cool. Listen, Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann joined me last week on Thursday on the 19th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, and we talked a lot about it. And I mean, I look back, it's in some ways it seems like it was yesterday. In some ways it feels like it was another life. But you got to see Mississippi rally in the wake of that. When you reflect about Hurricane Katrina, what immediately comes to mind to you?
Well, just working for such a great leader in Haley Barbour and how he handled it and how we were immediately saw our roles in each division of not just MDA, but all the agencies and how the state was going to support this. And we had a good leader that could lead us in those places. And my area of expertise was, obviously, I had worked at the White House for 6.5 years for 2 different presidents, and knowing that we would be having travelers from the White House to come in and working with the advance teams there on those events, but also as director of tourism, we still had the rest of the state that was open for business, which, the economy depended on tourism. At that time, we weren't the 4th largest industry in the state. I think we were 5th, but still a huge part of the economy. And from the casino standpoint, that's when Tunica was really booming already. And so they picked up a lot of business from the coastal travelers. But you still had the rest of the state that was open. So I still had to remain focused on helping them with all their needs to continue to generate, and then be reaching out to our friends on the Gulf Coast to help them just get their offices open. Steve's last name, who was CVB.
Richer.
Steve Richer, Steve. And,
yes.
And, helping him and Hancock County, and Beth over Hancock County, just helping them get their doors open, wherever it was in a building, so they could start, and helping them with whatever federal dollars we could help find. And Hattiesburg was a key entity in many ways for the coast, because they would, they were stationed, the National Guard, much of that launch from Hattiesburg each day right there on Highway 49. And Hattiesburg is one of our top tourism areas too. So there's just a lot of, when people ask me specifically about that, I actually, when Hurricane Katrina hit, I was in New York at the U.S. Open. We had a sponsorship deal with Tennis Week magazine, and I took a lot of the not only casino but tourism partners from the Tunica and Memphis area were with me. And we were actually on Caesar's plane. We flew up there, which we turned around and came back right after it hit when we were there. But then we were stuck in Tunica because we couldn't get down to Jackson and down to the coast. So it was kind of a helpless feeling the way that it happened. Hurricanes come and go, sometimes they hit, and we were already en route there when it was coming into Mississippi. And so my first memory is I was back and not only, I would say, stuck in Tunica, but then when I was able to get back to Jackson, of course, all the power was off in Jackson for a week or so. No, it couldn't get gasoline. Remember the gasoline shortage just because they didn't have power to pump the gas. And so I was not even able to get to the coast or allowed to for at least a week. So we're at that point, we're just, and we have employees on the coast too. All the welcome centers work for us. So we're tracking our employees. Are they okay? Where are they? All the different locations. So we were kind of a sub team, part of the big team for the industry. And it was with all the shared goals. I didn't actually serve on the commission on the coast. More of my role was still working with the rest of the state and kind of keeping everybody together. And believe me, everybody wanted to help out. All the tourism industry all huddled up and hitched up all of our britches at once and really supported and did what we could do for the coast in every which way possible. Once they were open, for business, starting to drive convention business and help in any way that we could to get the engine working again. So, but I just, the same feelings that everybody else had. Once we were able to get down there, I was down there a good bit, and to see the coast now after all these years, for those that have never been to the coast before Katrina, to come back now and to visit, you can't appreciate the before and after, but the ones that are on the coast now, they go, wow, this is a cool place. All the things to do, and the casino and the beaches. And well, the beaches went through an oil spill. They went through a hurricane or two, the rebuilding of so many locations there. So it's, as we approach this anniversary, there's a lot to reflect on, but a lot of good too, to see the people of Mississippi follow Haley's leadership and our support from our DC contingency, having Senator Thad Cochran over appropriations was very helpful at the time, and all the support of all our members of Congress to just everybody just pulled together, followed the leader, and that leader was Haley. And
hey, what's interesting to me, you mentioned the Washington element to it, but in America's Great Storm, Haley's book on leading through Hurricane Katrina that I had the honor writing the forward to, I knew what was happening on the ground because we were living that. And since there wasn't meeting space on the coast for all the meeting space was destroyed. We had the governor's staff and members of the commission, the Governor's Commission on Recovery, Rebuilding, and Renewal, used my publisher's meeting office and then our auditorium and other conference rooms at the newspaper for meetings. So that for over a year, members of the governor's staff was working out of my office for almost a year. But what was so interesting about that is that I tell you what we're going to do. I didn't realize at the end of the segment we'll come back and we'll pick up from there, and then we'll talk about the Secret Service. We'll see you with Craig Ray on the other side. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio, and I have my friend Craig Ray, who has a long history of leadership in coastal Mississippi, especially as it relates to tourism. And he's a former director of Visit Mississippi now because he's kind of semi-retired. I expect in a year or two, he'll, when his daughter gets up to Mississippi State, he'll find some role to play. He's too vigorous and have too many ideas and too passionate about this state for that not to be the case. Hey, we went to break there. We're talking about Hurricane Katrina, and I was mentioning that I had a bird's eye view as publisher of the Sun Herald to a lot of the commission on the Governor's Commission on Recovery, Rebuilding, and Renewal operating a lot from the Sun Herald building. And so I got to see a lot about what was happening here. And obviously, as chairman of the tourism effort, was deeply involved in helping to manage what we call FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt around the whole tourism industry and the rebuilding of the casinos and all of that. What I didn't have a full appreciation of is what Haley was doing in Washington, and he and I have done entire shows to talk about it. But his book on Hurricane Katrina talks about that piece of it. How many times he went to, he would spend time here, then turn around and go to Washington. It was like going to Washington every week. Working diligently to begin to align a bipartisan effort around the tens of billions of dollars that we were going to need in order to recover. And, no offense to Senator Mary Landrieu, but almost immediately she asked for $250 billion. And because there wasn't a plan to support it, it created a bit of a chilling effect in U.S. Congress. And so Haley had to kind of work through that. And the way he worked through that not only helped Mississippi, but it also helped Louisiana. And that's part of the story that we don't have a full appreciation of until you read his book and see what was happening there. But amazing all that happened. It's amazing now that we're 19 years later and we're looking forward and we're praying we don't get hit again. That's for sure. Yeah. So, Craig, let's shift gears. I mentioned, I just wanted to get your feedback. I've been around presidents. I've seen how advanced teams work. I see how the Secret Service works, and especially with W. Bush, because Katrina is happening in the wake of 9/11 and the war and the amped up protection of him and his team. It was amazing to see in person. I'm amazed that a former president running for president could have such a failure of their own requirements, and that a roof like that would be unprotected. You know, you having been in that position many times before yourself, aren't you blown away by that? How do you get your head around that?
Well, I've been asked this question. I've resurfaced as a specialist in this area, I guess, because of all the events that I've participated in, hundreds of presidential events, not only domestic, international, and for every event, whether it's an indoor event, an outdoor event, whether he's going golfing or whatever for a president, there's usually a template of how it's going to work. And it all starts with the advance office getting a direction from it. At that time was Karl Rove in long range planning. Hey, we're going to these 7 cities. This is what we want to do. Here's the order, advance office. You'll work with the Secret Service and the military on these trips, and you go and you work the events. And an event like this particular one, I could break it down just that simple on how we would have done it and how it would have been handled. First and foremost, I was always engaged with the Secret Service because they couldn't work without us and we couldn't work without them. So you're literally at the hip for 7 to 10 days on that event site, whatever it is, indoor, outdoor, and you know that site like the back of your hand. I mean, you're out there every day. It's already typically in a secure zone. Once we decide, hey, it's going to be in this field and here's the backdrop, well, then that place is secure for 3 or 4 days. They've got cops local out there that are just kind of keep an eye on it. You know, if it's on the beach, on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, they've got U.S. Coast Guard boats out there a couple days ahead. It's the way it happens. And then where I can't figure this part out, you always would have a final walkthrough, as we would say. And it's where the highest ranking Secret Service person, it wasn't the supervisor because that person would be with the president. It would be like the deputy underling, the next guy down. He'd come out to the site and we'd walk through everything. But like, you know, who's going to be on stage and, you know, what are our spots of protection over here? How many metal detectors are we going to have? And you get to doing that with them so much, you're thinking that way. I mean, I would have looked at that event site. I mean, just by what I'm seeing on TV and reading and just personally would have said, well, who's got that roof covered? You know, why isn't there a policeman up there sitting down or One Bullet Barney up there or somebody posted there? Or how did this person ride his bicycle up with the gun in his backpack, walk up, climb up the roof, and nobody did anything even when they did see him? It should have never have gotten that far. And the fact that there wasn't even a supervisor that came by, surely in a final walkthrough, you would see that. You go, well, we got to get somebody up there before we open the metal detectors and let this event go. So the fact that even got that far, that they didn't have it protected. And then the kid, who I still think it's a conspiracy theory. I think there's something behind what he did. And they're still trying to find out through his websites and break the...
Yeah, I think the most recent news is that they have begun to get into those encrypted places where he was having some communication. And so while we don't know how that's playing out, yeah, man, did somebody urge him on? You know, did someone purposely create a weakness? Wait, why can't you think that way? I mean, it's not crazy to think that way because it's so damn obvious.
Well,
so,
if you look at, okay, the Secret Service, they believe me, they do this for a living. They've got campaigns every 4 years. They got a budget to have so many people for the protectees. Plus, Trump was a former president, so he's not going to have as many agents as a president would. But it all starts at the top. So you've got a supervisor, a female supervisor that used to be Biden's supervisor when he was vice president, and she's a female. She was hired because of DEI. She was not qualified to be in charge of the Secret Service. We all admit to that. I'm not admit those are the facts. And she didn't even go on that trip, had never seen the site, didn't approve of it. She hired Homeland Security agents to fill the gaps there. They only had like maybe 5 or 6 agents from the detail, from the Secret Service. The rest were farmed out. They didn't have near enough local support. If they did, they didn't have communications, which under any circumstance, it would have never happened. I mean, never would anybody get that close with a rifle and knowing that he had been there for an hour. I mean, it just, there's somewhere in the communication that nothing happened. And believe you, I don't know who's lying on this one, but if you're a sniper, okay, these guys can hit a Coke can from 1,000 yards, and they're just 150 feet on the other side of where this guy is, and they've got a line on him. They don't need to have clearance to pull the trigger. If he's got a gun and it's aimed at the vicinity, they can take him out. I mean, that's just the whole fact that he had been on that roof for an hour and people knew about him, knew he was somewhere on the grounds. There was an entity out there that was saying, hey, maybe at this event, let's just kind of back off a little bit. It's still a presidential event. You still have your checkpoints. You still have to do all these things. Or even the advanced guys, if they were there, granted his campaign staff, he's not presidential, but we would have, I'm saying under normal circumstances, there were at least 10 of us there on site and local volunteers that would have seen him. And we're always instructed, hey, if you see something strange, say something. You know, everybody's talking all the time. I just don't know how this kid got up on that roof, and that fact that nobody was up there, just or at the base of it.
So while I've had the opportunity to be around presidents,
Trump's lucky to be alive.
Yeah, I've been around presidents multiple times. I literally did get to work with an advance team, as I mentioned, when Vice President George W. Bush came to the coast of Mississippi. So the head advance guy, I was with him early in the day until the departure. Went with him to say goodbye to Bush when he went on the plane. I mean, the whole was in the room with him when he was in sort of the green room waiting to speak. You know, I was there the whole time. And what I remember most about it is the head of the advance team had a legal pad with him. And man, he had it in his hand the whole time with a pen. And it was check. It was nothing but the facts. I mean, checking every box, people, yes, sir. I mean, they weren't playing around. And we didn't have nearly the threats that we're dealing with today. But that's why, on so many levels, it didn't work. It's just amazing. Hey, when we come back on the other side, we're going to talk about Marty Stuart and the great success that he's having, creating sort of national acclaim around what he's doing with his artifacts, this incredible collection. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizen Bank Studio. I have Craig Ray, who's the former director of Visit Mississippi, the tourism effort that's a subsidiary of the Mississippi Development Authority, the MDA, and he's been retired, or I would say semi-retired, for maybe a year and a few months, and certainly he'll be back in some seat like I did after I retired to be on, to do this show. But one of the things he's been involved in it from the very beginning, is country music artist Marty Stuart is so passionate about his incredible country music collection. He's created a Mississippi the Congress of Country Music, and last week they announced a partnership. And I won't steal the headline. I'll let Craig tell more about it. But there's a very significant, very precedent-setting event, and it's really important to Mississippi. Craig, tell us more about that.
Well, if I could back up just a second, I also still serve on the Grammy Museum board in Cleveland. I'm in my 6th year. I'll be rolling off the board this November. And recently appointed by Governor Reeves as the chairman of the Country Music Trail Commission and the Mississippi Blues Trail Commission. So honored to serve in that similar role before, but now I'm chairman of both. So enjoy working there. And why is all that important when we talk about Marty Stuart, too? Well, Marty is also on the Country Music Trail Commission. He is passionate about the Country Music Trail and how this will ultimately feed into the Congress of Country Music and now this partnership with the Country Music Hall of Fame in Nashville. So it all works together. The blues and country music and the museums, the B.B. King Museum, the Grammy Museum, the Max and Meridian, and how we're all promoting and working together the music, tourism, and history in the state of Mississippi. And Marty's torch that he owns and is running with is the Country Music Partnership Hall of Fame, his collection, what just happened. So when visiting with Marty, and I'm on his advisory board for the country music, or the Congress of Country Music, and then we serve on the trail together. So it's a great partnership with all the board and how we work together. We have 40 country music trail markers in here in the state of Mississippi and 3 other states, and then we have 217 blues trail markers in 7 states, Mississippi, 7 states, and 5 countries. So it's quite the museum that I told you about is growing. The world's largest outdoor museum continues to grow, and the partnership that you just referred to with Marty and his collection joining with the Country Music Hall of Fame in Nashville, which is the world's largest collection of all country music items, memorabilia. So to bring in Marty's personal collection to be a part of that, knowing that the Congress of Country Music in Philadelphia will have access to all those exhibits and Marty. So now it's under this huge umbrella in Nashville. But the idea, like the Grammy Museum, we have our partnership with the LA Grammy Museum and sharing exhibits and knowledge and information. We've got 2 partnerships in Mississippi that's no other state has that. I'm telling you, they don't. And
well, it gives you the ability, for example, to have the Taylor Swift exhibition that's coming.
Yeah.
So,
second time we've had her exhibit, not as big as this one is, and so the exhibits that Marty and his partnership with the Country Music Hall of Fame will be able to bring in incredible rotating exhibits. You've seen the level of talent that Marty's brought into the Ellis Theater already this year. They've had over 500, I think 65 events in the first year just at the theater, to include Vince Gill, Ricky Skaggs, Dolly Parton, of course, Marty and his band. It just has announced Chris Stapleton next spring is coming in. These are all fundraisers, friends of Marty, that he's able to spin his Rolodex and have these people come in, but now have that ultimate Rolodex from the Country Music Hall of Fame. We're the only entity they've ever in the history of the Hall of Fame have had a partnership with.
And one of the reasons they want that partnership is because Marty Stewart's collection is significant, isn't it?
It is, and what's unique about Marty, we were fortunate too with B.B. King. B.B. was alive when they were building his museum. He got to help curate it, bring it to life, promote it. And Marty's active. Marty's still on tour. I mean, he's in his late 60s, but he's a living legend. And so it's not just we get a museum of his stuff. I mean, he's alive. He is the apostle, the head apostle of country music, and so that's exciting. And I was invited to be there for the announcement at the museum in Nashville. And it was just amazing to be there for that moment and to see the power that he has in friendship and not only memorabilia, but we're blessed to have Marty Stuart and his project and all of our other ones together make the state of Mississippi even that much greater in music.
Well, listen, we're out of time, but listen, congratulations on your continued involvement. It'd be interesting to stay in touch with you to see what your next chapter is going to be like once your daughter's up at Mississippi State, soundly and safely. But it's been a pleasure to catch up with you, my friend.
Likewise. Thank you for having me on board. And I love to tell Mississippi stories, and I appreciate your friendship. And I love your show. I've to it all the time.
Well, I appreciate it, Craig. This has been Craig Ray, Farmer Director of Visit Mississippi. Listen, have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.